Hyrule is a land of magic, monsters, and surprisingly delicious looking food. But behind every hearty meal and dubious snack lies a hidden economy more broken than any Bokoblins battle plan. Right behind me is one of the many apple trees found throughout the Legend of Zelda series. And you might think, this looks pretty good. This is a great source of food in Hyrule. But where is this apple tree? Is it anywhere close to a town? Can the residents of Hyrule access the vast food supplies of the wilds? Well, it turns out this tree is completely useless. I mean, that might be a bit extreme, but in fact, this tree is miles away from any town where people might be able to collect apples. You see, Hyrule is based on a medieval economy. But in medieval times, the real world had extensive agriculture to support our growing population. That's a good thing. But what about in Hyrule? Where are the farms? Where are the windmills and oil presses for processing food? Is there even enough food infrastructure to feed the people of Hyrule? We started our exploration in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, as they are the most modern Zelda games. You'd expect them to include the most detailed simulation of real life in Hyrule. In other recent open world games like Skyrim, The Witcher, or Cyberpunk, you'll notice a strong focus on realism. We see farms with actual farmers, carts, carrying food across the countryside, even grocery stores with refrigeration. But what about Zelda? At first glance, the food situation in Hyrule looks pretty great. There's food everywhere. Wild apples, mushrooms, roasted meats, and don't get me started on all the cooking options. So, we decided to break down every food Link eats in the game, except for monster parts. You're welcome. And we did this to figure out what the actual citizens of Hyrule might be eating. And honestly, there's a lot. We found 14 types of fruit, 13 mushrooms, 8 crop plants, 5 kinds of meat, and 13 additional ingredients including milk, butter, cheese, spices, oil, rice, wheat, and more. That's a seriously diverse menu. But here's where things get weird. Despite all the variety, almost none of this food seems accessible to the average Hylian. We visited every town, every stable, every village, and what we discovered was kind of shocking. Almost all of the towns have dishes and cups on the table. There are tea sets and even sake sets. First house in Hotno, what do you got in here for food? Again, tea. Tea. Lots of tea. They have to have tea in this game. Let's check out this house too. If there's anything on it. I'm finding that there's not a lot of food on tables. So, where is all the food? Well, only 2 towns in Hyrule have any real infrastructure for food. And get this, they are both in the Necluda region to the southeast. I guess the weather there must be nice or something. Hotno Village definitely seems like a bustling place. They've got cows and goats for dairy, a Cucco farm for eggs and, well, meat, and eventually Link can even start a small pumpkin farm with a few other crops, which makes you wonder, what exactly were they eating before Link showed up? Then there's Lurelin Village. When Link first arrives here at this place, it's completely overrun by monsters. But once it's restored, it turns into a pretty solid hub for fish, crabs, palm fruit. It's like a tropical paradise. But are these 2 little towns feeding all of Hyrule? Not likely. Remember, this is Hyrule that just survived a massive calamity. It's broken and in disrepair, and Hotno barely has enough livestock to support its own tiny population, let alone feed the rest of Hyrule. Let's break it down. A typical family of 4, they need about 7 laying hens, assuming those hens are clocking in and laying daily like little feathered overachievers. And then they'd be about 50 to 60 meat chickens per year, assuming they only eat chicken once a week. And that is for 20-ish people in Hotno Village. So for the 20-ish people in Hotno Village, we should be seeing at least 335 Cuccos lapping around. That's not a village, that's Cucco City. you wouldn't be farming, you'd be dodging beaks on your way to work, and heaven forbid you accidentally attacked one. Then it becomes not a poultry farm anymore, that's a boss fight. Now what about cows and goats? Surprisingly, this part's slightly more reasonable. A family needs about 1 beef cow and 1 dairy cow per year. Unless you're throwing in goat milk, in which case, congrats, you're one step away from opening a farm-to-table coffee shop in Cucco Village. We only found around a dozen cows in Hylian, so maybe they're scraping by feeding themselves. But that's if nobody's actually lactose intolerant, and everybody agrees to share. I'm getting an extra portion of chicken every week. But exporting meat to other regions? Absolutely not. Hylian isn't feeding the kingdom. They're just trying to keep their cheese supply from running out. But even if these two towns could produce enough food, how would they ship it? Well, surprisingly, we actually do have some evidence for food transportation from the past. Remember this guy? Yeah, this is Talon, the owner of Long Lawn Ranch in Ocarina of Time. You probably remember him snoozing like this outside of the castle at the start of the game. But look behind him. You see those? Yeah, you remember those. You had to move these crates in order to sneak into the castle. But did you ever stop to wonder what was in them? Well, it's pretty easy to tell if you look and see the cow's face on the side. It's milk. Talon is clearly shipping milk from his ranch to Hyrule Castle. Except, well, he fell asleep. And now, that milk, it's going to spoil. Milk starts going bad after just 2 hours at room temperature, and even faster under the hot sun. This is why you run all your errands before you go to the market to pick up some milk. You don't want to go to the market before and then run to the mall to shop around while your car begins to smell of milk rot. So, without trucks or refrigeration, is it even possible for the people in Hylian Village or Lurelin Village to supply food across all of Hyrule? Maybe. Hyrule is a weird place. The first thing we've thought of were the traveling merchants wandering around Hyrule. But seriously, could these guys actually deliver food all the way across the map before it spoils? We already know milk goes bad after 2 hours. So let's check what else they're hauling. Let's see, we've got pumpkins, carrots, apples. Okay, solid so far. Arrows, swords, bombs. Okay, I'm just saying, if your grocery bag includes both carrots and explosives, you might need a new meal plan. And that brings this video's sponsor. I'm just kidding. We don't have a sponsor yet, but this would be a great segue for that. And there it is. Raw meat and fish. Yep, just chilling in a cloth sack, bouncing around on the back of a sweaty merchant in the summer sun. I'm sure that smells amazing. I imagine it smells like the meat has been smoked outside during the summer. Except, instead of smoking with wood, they decided to use my 1-year-old's wet diapers. Gross. So how long does it take to get across the map, to get across Hyrule? Can merchants get goods from Hylian Village to the distant Rito Village in 2 hours? Well, if you joined our live streams, you already know the answer to that. Or if you watched our recent How Long Does It Take to Really Cross Hyrule, we did an in-depth deep dive where we walked, rode, and pulled a wagon across Hyrule. And our results? They were shocking. Walking took 42 minutes. Driving a wagon? It took almost 33 minutes. And horseback was the fastest at 25 minutes. And you might think, that is actually not bad for a grocery store, right? That's under 2 hours. That's until you realize Tears of the Kingdom, the in-game clock, runs 60 times faster than real life. So walking across the whole map of Hyrule, that takes almost 2 full in-game days. Even horseback takes a full day and night, assuming a horse is running at full sprint and could make it that long without resting. That's a lot more than 2 hours. So is it even remotely possible that the 2 tiny towns to the southeast are feeding all of Hyrule? Yeah, not likely. The math just doesn't add up. I mean, we tried. I literally took a link and ran from one village to the other and did not make it. But what if a merchant used ice? One of our amazing subscribers in the live stream pointed out that the Gerudo have ice. There is even a whole quest inside of an ice house that you can complete. So could the merchants make it if they were putting everything on ice? Well, that is where the complicated math starts. It depends on the ratio of ice to food and how insulated the cooler is. But let's be honest, those cloth merchant bags, yeah, they don't exactly scream high-performance insulation. But we will give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say somehow the ice doesn't melt for 2 whole days. It's magic ice or something. In that case, our research suggests milk and other dairy might be okay. Steak? Probably safe too. But pork or chicken? Not a chance. Those are not safe in a cooler for more than a few hours. And remember, that's if the ice doesn't melt, if it's like magic or something. But here's the thing, it's hard to believe that a few ice cubes could survive a trip from the Gerudo Desert to Hotno to pick up goods, and then go all the way to Rito Village after that. That's about 4 days across a desert and through a jungle, all in a cloth bag. Honestly, I can't even keep the ice in my own cooler intact for an afternoon hike on Death Mountain. Death Mountain, Appalachia. So unless that ice is magical, like I've said, and hey, this is Hyrule, so anything's possible, there is no way the merchants are keeping things cool. But okay, even if the merchants had some kind of magic up their sleeves, Hotno and Lurelin just doesn't have enough animals or gardens to feed approximately 400 people in Hyrule. Plus, they mostly provide dairy, meat, eggs, and fish. What about all the fruits and vegetables and tea? Unless Link's secretly running a CSA on the side, something's not adding up. So how are the people of Hyrule really getting their food? How are these markets staying stocked? I mean, take a look at the market in Rito Village. They've got butter, wheat, cane sugar, and mushrooms. I'm an adult. That's not exactly foraged fruit and seeds. That's a bakery aisle. Are the Ritos secretly running an underground supply chain? Or are they just out here foraging like overachieving birds? Look, Ma, I found a whole stick of butter. Well, we came up with 2 options. They're either foraging like Link, or they're importing the food from somewhere else. Foraging seems possible for most food, right? After all, cooking pots are scattered throughout Hyrule. On mountaintops, in ruins, sometimes next to like one guy in a tree. It's as if everyone just assumes you're stopping to cook something at any given moment. And we do see NPCs asking Link to gather ingredients like mushrooms, snails, or herbs, all in various side quests. We can even see herbs and flowers hanging up to dry in home, with mortar and pestles nearby. And those are ready to be used for, obviously, cooking or crafting. But then we have to think, these folks can't fend off a single monster. We've seen entire towns panic because a bokoblin showed up with a stick. So how are they braving the wild to collect apples? Especially when most of the good ingredients are nowhere near any towns. The worst of it all, though, is rice and wheat. These basic carbs are literally the foundation of entire civilizations. But in Hyrule, the only way to get them is by cutting grass in random patches of Hyrule field. Not harvesting, not farming, just swinging a sword and hoping for the best. Though you might also find a rupee from time to time. Are we really supposed to believe the villagers from Terrytown over here are hiking all the way down there just to cut grass and hope for a grain of rice to pop out? And even if they did manage to gather enough, the only windmills in the entire game are in Hotno Village. So is Hotno grinding the wheat into flour for the entire kingdom? And where are the oil presses to turn seeds into cooking oil? We're seeing breads, cakes, fried foods, but none of the infrastructure makes those possible. And it's not just Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. The older games don't really help either. In Twilight Princess, Ordon Village has dairy, meat, and pumpkins. But where are the actual farms? Like, you're gonna need more than one goat pen and a pumpkin patch. And in A Link to the Past or A Link Between Worlds, sure, there are apple trees, But are we seriously thinking Hyrule runs on a diet of just apples? They would never have to see doctors, though, if they did that. Once we dug a little deeper, we came across a clear conclusion. The people of Hyrule aren't farming all of their food, and they definitely aren't foraging enough for an entire kingdom. That only leaves really one option. The food must be imported. And that makes sense. I mean, one of the most shocking findings from our live streams was every town has teapots. We even found sake sets, Japanese rice wine, on tables in Kakariko Village. But the tea leaves and tea aren't even ingredients you can find in the game, unlike rice. So they must be imported. But from where? And to answer that, we need to look back, way back into the Zelda series past. What lies beyond the borders of Hyrule? Your first thought, you may be thinking there's Hylian Island and the world of the Ocean King, but those aren't exactly real places. They're more like dream worlds or parallel dimensions. Oh, and Termina? Yeah, that's considered an alternate reality realm too. It's weird. Hytopia eventually emerges into Hyrule's borders, so that's off the table. So that really leaves us with two possibilities. Labrina and Holodrum from the neighboring lands of Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. But how do we know these places are real? And where exactly are they? Well, at the beginning of each Oracle game, the three goddesses flee toward Hyrule. And specifically, they head north. That tells us two things. One, these countries exist in the same world as Hyrule. And two, Labrina and Holodrum must be somewhere to the south. Okay, cool. But what's south of Hyrule? Oh, lots of water. I mean, you do have Gerudo Desert, which you can get lost in and turn into a skeleton, or something worse. So if any trade is happening, it's definitely coming over the ocean, especially since we don't see any roads crossing the mountains in Gerudo or Hebra. But is that actually happening? Again, we don't think so. There aren't any docks big enough for a proper trade ship. And we definitely don't see any trademark foods from Labrina or Holodrum floating around Hyrule. I mean, where's my lava soup? Yeah, that was a thing. So what does that leave us with? What's really going on with this bizarre food economy in Hyrule? Well, Hano Village seems to be set up for farming and maybe trading with the rest of Necluda. But without any major trade or imports, maybe the rest of Hyruleans are just made of tougher stuff. Maybe they don't need to eat much, or maybe like the Gerudo, they've learned to hunt and forage to survive. But what do you think? Can the residents of Hyrule really find enough food to eat? Or is the kingdom on the brink of collapse again? Let us know down in the comments below, and while you were there, maybe think about subscribing and liking the video, even if you enjoyed it just a little bit. And if you are ever interested in helping with our research, consider joining our weekly live streams on Sunday. My name is Papa Goron. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.
Where have you been? Been searching all along. Confusing Twilight on and on, without a clue.
How could you even use a Cucco for meat? I mean, for real. You can't kill it. As soon as you attack it, you are getting swarmed by chickens. Is there like a protocol that they use? Is there like a voluntary Cucco meat program? Like a Cucco comes up and says, hey, I am ready for a career change. I'm tired of laying eggs. And they're like, oh, wonderful. How about death? Otherwise, where are they even getting chicken in this game? Hyrule's weird, man.
I'm a shapeshifter. What else should I be? Please don't take off my mask, revealing dark.